What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the NickelUp podcast. This week we had our boy Plourde, aka Sevryn, on the pod. He's a local North Shore, Massachusetts kid who's killing it out in LA right now. He's blowing up on TikTok and he's creating his own music, all while building his personal brand and getting his nickel up. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and stay tuned for more. Thanks, guys.
I just filmed a podcast like a week ago.
Nice.
What did you do?
You guys know who Ski Mask Girl is?
Yeah, Two-Tone Tony?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just filmed Ski Mask Girls.
Nice. How'd they go?
Honestly, so sick. There's a lot of like positive reinforcement in the comments. So
That was in LA?
yeah. They're in Nashville now. Actually, I'm gonna see them when I'm there. So
Cool.
But
Awesome.
we filmed in LA. Which camera am I looking at too? And
Kind of wherever.
Cool.
You can look at, just
They're all pointed at you,
Yeah.
and then
Sick.
like that one's only on me, and
Either
that
of
one's
those
only
two.
on you too.
Sick.
So
Cool.
Yeah, so our podcast is like Nickel Up, and we kind of just talk to anybody who's doing cool stuff, anybody who's, trying to get their nickel up, trying to make a couple bucks, trying to set themselves up for success. So you just kind of want to start by telling us, who you are and what
Yeah.
you've been up to these last couple of years.
Sure, man. I mean, my name's Plourde. I'm obviously from the North Shore, Peabody, Massachusetts, and I professionally go by Sevryn. When I got into entertainment, I wanted something bigger than me to build a brand around. And, when I started releasing music, it just kind of made sense. So I got involved in social media when I was 19. And, there's just so many routes you can take, whether it's business, music, entertainment, anything. And, that's just where I'm at now. So I'm living on the West Coast, LA, and I've been there for 3 years. Yeah.
You've been dipping your toes into a lot of stuff, right? I mean,
For
you're
sure.
doing music, you're doing some modeling.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Yeah, man. I'm actually in the midst of creating my own podcast right now. So this is, pretty good practice for me. But also building a clothing brand too. I think a lot of people you see, like Travis Scott dips his toes with the fashion. Kanye West dips his toes in the fashion. And then they build a whole brand around it. So I was super inspired by that, not only from an artist, standpoint, but from a creative standpoint. And so I get a lot of questions, now that I'm in modeling too, like what I wear, how it fits, things like that. And it just inspired me to get into like my own brand. So I'm building a clothing brand. I just kind of want to, build like this big entrepreneurship kind of brand under me and just kind of be like the creative director of everything. So
when you first got into what was music at the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Where did you see it going? What were your kind of goals?
Dude, a lot of people don't know this. I mean, my friend behind the camera, he'll be able to tell you. I was releasing like rap songs on SoundCloud in high school. Like I always knew I wanted to do music, and I come from a line of musicians, with my dad being a professional guitarist and my grandmother being a professional pianist. So when I first started, dude, I thought my route was going to be completely different. I thought I was going to have to get like heavy in the marketing, like ground up SoundCloud rapper. And then I knew with my image and my voice and like songwriting, I wanted to be like more into like the pop and like the mainstream music. So once, TikTok started to blow up and that became like the modern leverage for musicians, I was like, dude, I'm just going to focus on this right now, and whatever I can do with it, that's going to be my marketing tool. So I mean, when I started, I thought it was going to be a completely different route, but I'm happy with where it's taken me, and I think I'm right where I'm supposed to be.
So you got into TikTok kind of by accident in a way?
Yeah, dude. I was sitting in a college dorm, and I had some girls tell me I looked like a TikToker. I was like, you guys cuss on here or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Dude, I was like, what the fuck's a TikToker? You know what I mean? So I was like, they kind of explained it to me. I kind of just told this story too on another podcast, and I was like, bro, I tried a video out. It got like 3,000 views, and I was like, okay, this is enough for me to try again. And I obviously grew up watching YouTubers, and I was like, dude, this is kind of sick. You know what I mean? I'll test it out. And once I started getting like tens of thousands of views, I was like, there might be something here. And I wasn't like, a lot of those 16, 17-year-old kids that were getting on it at the time and just using it as like people can see my face. I was like, no, there's a real business opportunity here. I was in school for, finance and marketing, and I was like, what can I actually do with this? I hated school. I wanted to drop out. I'd always been, passionate about entertaining. So I got on TikTok on accident, and then it became on purpose. Yeah.
Did you graduate from college?
Nah, man, I dropped out. I transferred schools after my first semester. I had broken my foot. I was like on crutches. I figured I'd just come home and just do the local thing. And then after that first year, COVID hit, and I was like, bro, I'm out. You know what I mean? So I dropped out.
Where were you at school?
I was at Bryant University.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up dropping out. So
When was, the first kind of transition from, getting to social media, TikTok, like dabbling with it to, oh shit, I could make this into a career for myself?
Yeah, dude. I didn't know anything about the money making side. And once I started reaching a certain amount of views, I had friends in the game who were starting to make some money. And I was like, okay, what are you guys doing? Like, how are you making this? They're like, I have a manager. So the first thing I knew was kind of like, as a social media influencer, was kind of like I compare it to being an employee. The manager gets the deal, brings it to you. And I'd heard about the type of money they were getting. So I took a call with this manager and he was like, I'm only taking one more client. You're friends with the people on my roster. Let's see if it works. We'll do like a month-to-month thing. And I took it with him and we started to make a little bit of money. And it was more than, my friends were making at their jobs. And I kind of started telling my parents. And once it got to a point where I was seeing like consistent income, I looked at my mom and I said, if I hit this amount by this time, or, I can show you that this is consistent, like, can I leave school? And she was like, you could leave school right now. Like, this is your life. She was such a big supporter of me. But I really asked my grandfather, who was like on me about going to school. I was like, look, I'm making money. I don't know if this opportunity is going to ever come again. My manager just asked me to move to LA. It'll bring more money, good network. I jumped on it. So, yeah.
How long have you been doing it for at that time?
Dude, it just hit a little over 3 years mark that I lived in LA. So that means I've probably been doing social media like 3.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was about 6 months into.
Yeah, exactly. 6 months in, I had hit like 700,000 followers, which is pretty fast for a lot of people. I know some people that, start social media, get 1 million followers immediately. And then I know people who have been doing it for 5 years, haven't seen 1 million. I fortunately had something that kind of just took off for me, which is like me playing basketball in like a very fuckboyish manner, I guess. And, I was just like, whatever works. I'm going to do something now so that later I can leverage it. And that happened. I remember I hit my first 1 million followers about 8 months in. And that's when my parents were like, all right, like you can do this. You know what I mean? They believed in me and I'm grateful for that.
Did the basketball content, have you, since, been able to connect with NBA players or other basketball influencers like in that space?
Dude, 100%. That's like the best thing, or probably my best kept secret is like playing basketball. Cause I meet a lot of people on social media that are like, oh, I hoop. I'm like, do you really hoop? You know what I mean? One thing is like going to a prep school and then like preparing to play, at the next level and things like that. But dude, I've definitely like been able to connect with a lot of people out there, whether it's content creators or like former Division I players, overseas players, NBA players. And dude, they're just all good people and incredible basketball players. So I guess that's the most fun. Like when you like work hard, play hard, like you can step aside from social media and be like, let's all run. And you're not just playing pickup with your boys from high school. Like these are serious hoopers. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
How else have you networked out in LA besides basketball? Because I assume that it's kind of a tricky territory to navigate when everybody's trying to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, bro. And that's the number one thing I always want to thank my first manager for, was that opportunity to live there, because that's how I built my network. So I got in this content house, and it was, an all-girls content house at the time. And so for me...
And you?
Plus me. Yeah. I was like, they're like my sisters. I'm like their brother. I know a lot of people say like, oh, they're like sisters. Like, no, these girls are like literally like my sisters. They just moved across the country. Everybody kind of wants, my manager wanted somebody who can hold down the house. Like if anything weird happens, kick someone out, almost like a security guard in a way, but you're also an influencer.
Yeah.
Right. So living with these other influencers who were fresh, new to LA, a lot of people wanted to meet them. So like, if we would host parties, they were girls, so they'd invite their girlfriends. And, obviously you have to have guys at a party too. It's just a big mix. It's a melting pot. So getting there was, the easiest thing for me. I just woke up and I was at the party. It was my house. You know what I mean? I didn't know anybody, but when I was there, I just spoke to them. I'm like, oh, who are you? Oh, you're so-and-so's friend? Nice to meet you. This is my house. You need anything, let me know. And of course it's not my house, but that's what my manager's like just having me do. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of, if I have to kick someone out, I have to kick someone out. If I have to let someone in, I'll let someone in. And bro, just being around the right people, like when they say like your network is your net worth, so true, bro. Like I know people with infinite times the following as me, maybe infinite amounts of money higher than me, but they don't have the network. You know what I mean? Like if I'm out somewhere, oh, we need a reservation, I'll call so-and-so. Oh, you need this person on your podcast? Oh, I met him last week. You know what I mean? Something like that is just so important to me, because it's allowed me to sustain myself in such a big city with, like you said, so many people trying to do the same thing. Yeah, just being in the right place at the right time and capitalizing, being my authentic self, and being of service to people. Just want to be nice, and there's a lot of fake people in LA, and if I can show them I'm a real person, I think they appreciate that.
Is that something, you know, moving there that you kind of had in your mind? Because LA has this just stigma. It's like, you know, everyone's fake. Everyone's just trying to, you know, leech off you for clout or whatever.
Yeah.
Did you have that in mind moving there, or was there just kind of some kind of mindset, or was it just natural? That's who you are.
Dude, my mom, shout out to my mom. She always told me to just be myself no matter where I'm at. And as cliche as that sounds, it's what's worked for me. You know, just being myself, not like, I see a lot of people trying too hard. If they meet, you know, their favorite actor, musician, some celebrity, they're like, you know, kind of kiss assing or something. Dude, they're just a human at the end of the day. And I'm like, yo, I'm Christian. I go by Sevryn. If you hear people calling me that, that's why. And I'm like, if you need anything, let me know. Keep it short, sweet, simple. Just be a good person. And, you know, when I first got there, I thought it was more like Hollywood was where like that existed, like the acting world or something. But bro, that's everywhere. Like as stereotypical as it is, like there are people who are super fake, superficial, you know, do things for clout farming, whatever you want to call it. But on the contrary, there is a solid group of people who, you know, come from outside of LA. They stick to their roots, good family people, good friends. Maybe they're grounded in their faith. Just like any city, no matter where you look, like if you can find good in yourself, you can find good in other people. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. You know what I mean? You reap what you sow. And to the contrary of the stigma of there's like fake people in LA, I've met a lot of real ones too. So yeah.
Was there, you know, a moment like probably in the first like 6 months of moving out there that you were ever like super starstruck, or like it kind of like just hit at once?
Yeah, bro. When I had certain people coming over my house, it's not that I was starstruck. It just wasn't normal. You know what I mean? Like, cause that was their normal. I think I don't really get starstruck over celebrities, but the one time I grew up a big Justin Bieber fan. And the first time I was in a room with him that for me was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Cause everyone else, like, they say never meet your idols, or, you know, your idols become your rivals, whatever. My idols have definitely not become my rivals. If anything, I've, you know, been fortunate enough to make friends with them. Anybody that I grew up watching or looking up to is, you know, they might even be in my phone, you know, my contact list. They're all my friends. But the one person who's kind of like that unreachable, like person that I was starstruck was Bieber. And that's like a few times now. Like no matter how many times I see him, I'm like, whoa, you know, that's kind of like my GOAT.
What's it like to like be in the room with your childhood hero and you're trying to kind of, you know, while creating your own brand, you're still trying to emulate his success? Yeah, dude, it's you kind of have to suppress your inner child and understand that a million people are coming up to them with the same story. Oh, you're my childhood hero. Like he probably gets that every day. Like what separates me from them? You know what I mean? And that's that authenticity we just spoke about. It's like if the opportunity presents itself, I'm not gonna force myself to go say hi. You know, if it's organic, I'm gonna say hi. This is, you know, I'm so and so. I look up to you. I appreciate what you're doing. And the number one thing I would probably say to someone like that is like, I love how you use your platform for God, something like that, and give them something that like resonates with them at their heart. And yeah, bro, it's just, you got to suppress your inner self and understand this is a business that everyone, you know, they probably get a million highs in the same stories every day. So you got to do something to differentiate yourself, set you apart. And yeah, bro, I just kind of suppress that inner child and just humanize them because everyone wants to be humanized at that level. It's cool to hear you say that because we had another guest on our podcast, and he's a jeweler, and he just opened up a store down in the Rentham outlets. But his name's Matt Nasser, and what his dad always told him was, even if you're going up to Drake or LeBron, you go up to him and you say, hey, I'm Matt Nasser, I'm a jeweler. And kind of like you said, you know, you're not going to say, oh, I'm your biggest fan in the entire world. You're going up to him and you're saying, hey, I'm Sevryn, you know, you inspired me, this is what I'm doing.
Exactly, bro. It's like you got to have that sense of identity, because the one thing I've noticed is if you're, let's say it's some sort of gathering, party, event, and there's like a set list, right? Anybody that's in that room is meant to be in that room. They were invited by somebody, right? So you can't go up to them and just start off with this crazy fan energy. It's one thing to be like appreciative of an artist's work, but they're probably at the event to enjoy themselves. The last thing they probably want to do is deal with the outside world. So if you can go up to them and say, yo, I'm so-and-so, this is what I do. You've established your identity. Because if I go up to someone and I say, yo, Drake, I'm your biggest fan. Now I'm Drake's fan. I go, yo, Drake, I'm a content creator. Drake, I'm an artist myself. Drake's going to remember me as, oh, that's so-and-so. Whether it's competition or whether we're friends. You know what I mean? You have an identity. I think that's the number one thing. Like people lose their identity whether it's in materialistic things or, you know, they just throw away their whole career identity when they see someone that they look up to, because they'd rather be a fan of theirs than a friend of theirs. And that's where I say, just be true to yourself, because one day that person might want to be your friend. You know what I mean? So
it must have been hard, because like, you know, you move out there, you're coming from the East Coast, like you have, you know, you're mentally pretty put together, with just your mindset and the way you operate, but sustaining that through the past 3 years, like what's that been like? Has it been up and down? Have there been a lot of just like challenges?
Dude, I tell people it looks like a heartbeat. You know, it's just up, down, up, down. Success isn't linear. You know, there's probably 99 fails for that one success. You know what I mean? But for me, going out there, I thought I had a pretty level head on my shoulders. You know, coming from the East Coast, I always say the realest people come from the North Shore, man. Up here, the Northeast, whether it's like New York, Boston, Jersey. But there's real people everywhere, like I said. But long story short, I've definitely came with my roots, lost myself, found myself, lost it all, built it back. It's like, you ever hear those stories of like the entrepreneur, the millionaire who gains it all, loses it all. And, you know, it's like rinse and repeat at that point. But that's also like what growing up is. Like, I didn't go out there as a 30-year-old man who knew who I was. I was a 19-year-old kid figuring out life, just getting in the entertainment industry. Like, this TikTok thing hadn't been out for 5 years. Like, this is like a brand new market. So a lot of it was like trial and tribulation. And the one thing that kept me like level-headed, no matter how low I got or how high I got, was, like I said, my faith, one, in God, remembering that like I'm not better than anybody, but I'm here to serve others and him, most importantly. And two, my family. Dude, if I ever stepped out of line, my mom was there to correct me. Like, you're losing yourself. Like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm so grateful to have like great family and great friends that if I ever got low, I could call them. They could remind me like who I was. And I just never lost myself to the game or materialism or anything else that could, you know, suffice me for the moment, because I had a good system back home.
Did your family ever come out and visit and see that house and go to any parties or?
Yeah, dude, my twin brother came out, and I'm happy that he came out when he did, because he got to reap the benefits of like when LA was like in its peak, you know, in terms of like parties and fun. You know, he's not the biggest party guy, so, you know, I'm just happy he got to meet the people, because he's built a decent network for himself. But my mom has visited me a few times, for better or for worse, you know, if I was doing good or bad. And I'm just happy to show her that, like, you know, there's better weather than Boston. So, yeah.
When you went out there, did you know anybody like other than your manager? Or
Dude, I knew maybe 4 people. My manager and a couple of the people that I was going to live with, who were also, you know, who I never really had met in person. I had done a couple trips before LA, obviously visiting there, making sure I want to live there. And then I had gone to like New Jersey. I'd done Miami. I think I did Virginia Beach, or Myrtle Beach, sorry, in South Carolina. I'd met with a couple influencers. So I knew like a decent amount of people like from the outside world, but living in LA, of those people that I did the trips with, there was maybe like 3 or 4. So I was going in there like kind of like, you know, a freshman at a new university at a big school. And like, it's either make or break. You either make a name for yourself or you just get swallowed in the pack. So I went out there knowing like 3 or 4 people, but God willing, made a good network, and my manager helped me out, and the people around me helped me out. So
you brought up like the almost like golden age of like LA.
Yeah.
What are the biggest differences from like 3 years ago, 2 years ago to now?
Yeah, dude, I think 3 years ago it was everyone was trying to network themselves. You know what I mean? They were all in a common goal of like, let's all lift each other up. And like I said, for better or for worse, some people had ill intentions, some people had the best intentions, but everyone was going out. Everybody knew everybody. Dinners were bigger, parties were bigger. And now it's like a lot of people have taken the money and the network they've made and gone to live a more meek lifestyle or quiet life. Maybe they live on their own. Maybe they're not going out all the time. People just grew up. You know what I mean? So I think the reason it was like a golden age, because I compare it to like the craziest frat party, but instead of like college guys and girls, it's like, you know, influencers, celebrities, athletes, you know, actors, artists, whatever it is. So it was like this just giant melting pot of everyone trying to go to the top at one point, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
how were you able to curate like a strong circle around you to, you know, people to collaborate with, people just to kind of go out with in general? Because you got all these kids, you know, that are being thrown all this money for the first time, you know, living on their own. They probably don't know how to act. Like, how are you just finding good people?
Dude, mine was actually the opposite. I never cared about posting with those people. So when I first met them, they realized, oh my gosh, this guy's like not trying to make a video with me. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't want anything from me. And the truth was I didn't. I already lived in a good house. I was making money for myself. Like, yeah, could they have helped my career? Sure. But I thought long term. I knew people like genuine connections just as I do. So I actually did the opposite. Instead of being like trying to network with everybody, let's post this, let's do that. I built a good network for myself literally by just being myself, as if I was to meet somebody on the streets here. Oh, you're so-and-so's boy? Let's go hang out. Let's grab lunch. And then actually following up with those plans. So once they saw that I didn't want anything from them, they probably figured that I was just like different in that aspect, which kind of sounds sad in a lot of ways, but dude, it works so much because now I've built genuine connections and I wasn't doing it in a fake way of like, oh, I'm going to not post. And then when we become good friends with them, I'm going to post with them. It's like, no, people would just see me out in public with them and they'd, text me, I didn't know you were friends with this person. It's like, yeah, because I don't post that because we're actually friends. Mm-hmm. I know so many people who are like, just friends with people transactionally for what they can provide them. It's like, no, man, that's what work is. I have transactional relationships. That's what business partners are in certain things. Like, of course I'm going to, mess with them on a personal level in some aspect, but dude, if I'm like hanging out with you, I don't want anything from you. I'm there because you make my life better, or hopefully I make your life better. So I found a good circle just by being authentic with those people, and they were authentic with me.
You kind of just touched on this topic right there, but obviously like any person that is, a social media creator or even just like relevant on social media in this age, I feel like struggles with the balance between putting everything and like filming everything and putting that all on camera and your whole life being on camera, but then also just like living in the moment and having your own like personal space. How did you go about that?
Dude, I've actually suffered at one point where like I almost like didn't post enough. You know what I mean? Where I was like too busy on, oh no, screw that. Like I'm trying to live in the moment. And that's when I had like good people step up and be like, no, this is, actually my new manager was the one who's like, no, you got to film this. Like it's okay to do that. And for me, it was learning from my elders. So learning from other creators like, yo, this is the time when to post. This is when we're being personable. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's trial and tribulation to some degree, but I know a lot of people who like will shy away from certain influencers because they're like, oh, that person's going to have their phone out 24/7. We're trying to live our life. Maybe we don't want this to be like shown. And then there's people who don't put their phone out at all and they're burning a hole in their pocket because they like, you're missing an opportunity, whatever it is. Like if everybody's creating content, it's probably okay to create content. You know what I mean? Don't be that guy that like purposes like, nah, like, oh, I don't need to film this. Like I'm too cool for that. You know what I mean? So, dude, it was hard at first, like not knowing when to film or when not. And if anything, I actually was the guy that's like, I'm going to put my phone away and just focus on networking. And for me, it worked, but I learned eventually, like I do have to film some things. But yeah, to answer your question, I think it's just learning from managers, social media influencers, artists, actors, musicians, whatever it was that were in the game before me. That was like, okay, this is when we network. This is when we socialize. You know what I mean? This is when we post. This is when we film. And yeah, bro, it's just, you feel it out. You just read the room. Like you guys are good people. Like I'm sure you wouldn't have a problem with it. You just kind of read the room.
How does that like balance? Like, do you feel a bit more balanced now that you've kind of like tackled that? Obviously it's ongoing. It's, you're never going to be perfect. Yeah. There's no like perfect line, and balance, but how does that feel now?
Yeah, dude, I kind of, I treat it like a job. I saw Eminem at one point treated the studio like a job. I mean, there's some story out there where he was like in the studio from 9 to 5 and when 5 hit, he like just clocked out type thing. But I also know there's probably nights where he stayed there till like 4 a.m. And a lot of these influencers treat their job like I can work whenever, I can do whatever. And I did that for a bit. And like, it was, it was like social suicide. I think it's better for me now because I know, okay, I've built the brand for myself. I'm going to film before I see everyone. Because if I go see people, I'm not going to want to film. You know what I mean? Or if I go see everybody right now and everyone's filming, I'll film a bit, but then I'm going to get carried away. So getting into the habit of having a schedule and treating it like a real job definitely helped me because now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I can coordinate. Hey, we're going to hang out. We're going to film this at this time. And then after we can grab lunch. You know what I mean? Before you kind of play it by ear and then, you wake up at 1, now it's 5, your brand deal's due in 2 hours. You haven't filmed it. It's just
already 9 o'clock on the East Coast.
Exactly, dude. My parents are in bed. So it's like, yeah, treating it like it's a job, not taking it for granted. And, I've had moments where my work ethic's great and then moments where my work ethic is dog shit. So just like everybody else in the world. But honestly, getting to that point where things feel like a schedule has helped me out the most, because now I know when I am filming, whether it's with people or alone. So I literally now have separated networking and socializing versus working. You know what I mean? So I've just built that schedule for myself.
When did some of the other aspects of your career come into play? So like the music coming back in, the modeling start to show up. You want to talk about that?
Sure, bro. I always knew I wanted to do music, and then I originally brought that up to my manager. I was probably one of like the first people that said that to her, because there's infinite influencers that are like, oh, I want to do music now. And that's great, but like I said, music's been in my heart, at my core. So I always had that in the back of my mind. I was always talking about it. I've just been taking sessions for like 3 years now, whether it was vocal lessons, just sessions with different producers in different areas. Even if I wasn't posting it, I was always working on it. So I started to implement that more and more, and then finally got to the point where I was like ready to release a song, and really built a good network of people. And I kind of that's when I changed everything. I changed my overnight to Sevryn. I was like, dude, this is who I am at my core. This might be new for you guys, but this is what I've always wanted. And dude, I had a very successful rebrand. I know for a lot of people that's like the toughest thing. So I'm very thankful and grateful that we had a successful rebrand, and it's just been music ever since. But implementing modeling came with the music. Obviously, artists and musicians have a certain persona, a certain look. And for me, like I said, we touched on the Travis Scott and the Kanye West thing. I started like posting what I was wearing, and it drew attention. It got people, asking, where's this from? What are you doing? And so I remember I made a connection with one of my friends who, owns jewelry right here. It's literally his brand. Shout out Jackson. These are my people. And then he just asked, he's like, why don't you come down and shoot with us? I was like, okay. I went down and I shot, and my manager had saw it. She's like, how'd you like it? I was like, I like it. She's like, why don't you actually, like, outside of this, friends and family thing, like, try this. So I'm like, okay. So we took a couple brand deals that involved posting on social media, but we were doing like professional shoots with it. I was like, yeah, I kind of like this. And then like it got bigger and bigger, and then we started doing brands like Saint Laurent and Hollister, and that was like pretty cool. I got like a little taste of like working with bigger brands on the modeling side of things, and I just fell in love with it. So now I just kind of post it, and it really goes hand in hand with the lifestyle. Like, I'm an artist, but I also do this because, let's be honest, even like the NBA now has those pages called like league fits and stuff. We always care about what those like higher ups are wearing and stuff. So it just goes hand in hand with the lifestyle.
What was it like working, with a brand like Hollister that you probably grew up walking by in the mall like every weekend, or Saint Laurent, big kind of dream brand? Yeah,
that was pretty crazy, bro. For me, like when I was in middle school, all we wore was Hollister. You know what I mean? Or like Abercrombie. And so when I got the opportunity, I was like, whoa, that's like kind of crazy. And I'm thinking like they'll probably ship me the clothes. I'll probably hire a photographer for the shoot, whatever, get a budget. And my manager was like, no, like they're flying you out to their headquarters in Columbus, Ohio. And I was like, whoa. And I remember, dude, this is a crazy story. I had a brand deal with Celsius and Hollister back to back in the same 48 hours. So I flew from LA to Miami, did Celsius's event, showed my face, made sure I was there, thank you for flying me out. I'm here. And I stayed there till the event ended at like midnight. I left at like 10:30. And then at midnight, I had a driver pick me up and drive me to Tampa, Florida from Miami. So I got there at like 3 something in the morning, flew to Atlanta. Atlanta was my cutoff. Flew to Columbus. I got into Columbus at like 8 in the morning. So I just shot with Celsius like less than 12 hours ago, whatever it was. It's like 7 in the morning. My call time's 9. I hit the hotel. I shower. I go to the warehouse. I'm like sleeping at this point. You know what I mean? And I had one of the people on my team meet me in Columbus from LA to make sure like everything went smoothly and stuff. And I get there. He's like, all right, man, you ready to shoot? I'm like, dude, I am dead right now. But that like we talked about suppressing your inner child, I actually like kind of like reignited him. I was like, bro, this is like a brand you wore like, in your childhood. I don't care how tired you are, like drink a Celsius. You know what I mean? Like get up. So once we started shooting, bro, I didn't even feel the tiredness or, whatever it was. I started shooting. Obviously they were like, we're going to put you in this look. We're going to do this. Like, tell us what you like. And just, getting the tour of the warehouse. I'm like, bro, like, 7th grade me is probably freaking out right now. So it was such a blessing to work with a brand like that and build like, the connects there and stuff. And after that shoot, I flew back home. I was super tired. It was like 48 hours of work, but it was super cool to fly there, get the experience of like professionally modeling, working with a brand. But I gotta say the coolest was like when people DM you a picture of you like in the store, or you know, you go on like Hollister.com and like you're the front page. I was like, that's when like 7th grade me was like, okay, like the work goes into fruition or comes to fruition. And yeah, just seeing that page, I remember I showed my mom. She's like, what? Like, cool full circle moment from like, you know, younger you to now.
Is there like so you said that, you know, some days it's modeling, some days it's music. Like, what's like your method to your madness? Everything kind of funnels into Sevryn, you said?
Yeah, dude.
But, you know, like, how do you decide, well, you know, oh, today's music, today's modeling?
Yeah.
What's your schedule like?
Dude, it's actually funny. I'll show you this on my phone real quick. Like I said, building a schedule, bro. I have this, like, I'm super organized. You can kind of see it. Maybe I'll show the camera if like they can even see this. I doubt it focuses. You can see it over here.
If you want to send a screenshot.
Yeah, I will, bro. Yeah, I'll send you guys that. But dude, I have like a daily to-do list as a widget on my, you know, right here. You guys want me like, can I read it out loud?
Yeah, go for it, yeah.
So like every single day is like, you know, wake up. First thing I do is I read my Bible and I annotate. And like if I don't start my day with the word, like even if it's like Bible app on my phone, I have like 2 or 3 Bibles in my room. I make sure I get like my spiritual food for the day, right? I have my emails, check my emails. I have my iPad. I have certain emails, like, you know, the house that I have is, you know, ran through me in terms of like utilities and things like that. So I just make sure like financially everything's set, bills are paid. I journal next. I have my journal. I'll go in my studio. I write down like things I'm grateful for, stuff like that. I call my family. I take my vitamins. I lift. I film my social media content. So I make sure like, okay, do I have to film anything today? No, I filmed it yesterday. Okay, we'll just post. I haven't filmed today. Okay, we'll film that, right? I get my social media content out of the way. Then I work on my clothing brand. I plan my podcast. And then I write my music. And then I read. So it's like, I just have this like list of check boxes. And not every day do I hit everything perfectly. But it's kind of a chronological outline where I keep myself like, just make sure it's in the back of your head. Did we do this? Okay, we don't have to do this today. Skip past it, check. You know what I mean? But deciphering whether something's like a music day or like, you know, a shoot day. Like for me, every Wednesdays is a shoot day. You know what I mean? I like make that. I talk to my people, my team. Like I schedule Wednesdays as like, this is when I'm shooting. You know what I mean? Work with the brands or we'll work around their schedule. But music is something I don't schedule for a reason. I put at the bottom of my list because I don't put a creative or a time on like my creative capacity. Dude, it could be like 2 a.m. and I'm like about to go to bed and I'm like, oh, I got to write this in my notes. Like just an idea. Or I could be in the studio from like 12 to 5 and it could run till 8. You know what I mean? So music is like that last thing that I'm like, okay, unless I have a studio session planned for this time and this date, like I'm going to work on it. Dude, I'll be in the middle of working out. And if I have lyrics coming to my head, screw the working out. Like that is my priority. That is my hobby. That's where my heart is. Like I will stop what I'm doing to focus on that. So I have an outline of the things that I need to do and what I want to do. And then, you know, if the heart speaks, the heart speaks. Yeah.
It's very interesting to hear you say that music is your priority, but it's also at the very bottom of your to-do list.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I thought that was cool.
Dude, it's funny because I make sure I do the things that, you know, pay the bills and what people know me for. I got to make sure like at the end of the day, it's like, you know, people are taking care of you and supporting you. You also have to provide them with something. So I make sure like that's like the first couple hours of my day, whether it's 2-3 hours, usually doesn't exceed that. And then, although it's like at the bottom of my priorities in terms of, you know, what I'm doing, until the day like a label tells me like you have to do this at this time for this and it becomes my everything, that's when it'll be at the top of the totem pole. Because theoretically I can hit up my producer, dude, I got an idea, let's send bounces. Like, dude, we're working from like some nights it's 1 a.m. Some days it's 10 a.m. I got off a call. My producer's in Virginia right now. I got off the phone with him at 9:30 last night. You know what I mean? So it's like, although it's like where my heart is, it's the number one priority. It's also like where I have to understand, okay, some things have to take the driver's seat right now and we'll get there when we get there. But if I have an idea, I'll write it down along the way.
Is music, you know, making that your main focus? That is still your goal, right?
Of course. That's the end all be all. Like if I could full time, you know, my goal within the next, you know, year or two is to be, you know, nationwide, if not worldwide touring artist. And just do that full time because I think the clothing brand posting, like the content, like posting social media will get better with things like that. Like you see artists that are like on tour, like, dude, it's so sick. Like there's literally travel influencers, right? well, if you're an artist on a world tour, you're technically a traveling influencer at that point if you're posting. It's like, so it just, and then it's like, okay, I'm in London. What am I wearing while I'm in London? Okay, I'm in Tokyo. There's sick fashion out there. What am I wearing while I'm in Tokyo?
And if you have your own brand, you inspire lookbooks and
exactly,
stuff
bro.
Yeah.
Inspire lookbooks. You can work with brands in the area. Maybe I'm in, you know, some crazy, like maybe I'm in Berlin and I get inspired by the fashion there. I'm like, oh, dude, I got to put this down. Like, I personally think music is just like an umbrella and everything just fits underneath it. And so, yeah, that's why it's the end all be all. But at the same time, it's also where my heart has been for, 22 years.
Do you ever get like imposter syndrome being out in LA and like now you got millions of followers, like you're the man out there, but you're at the end of the day you're just a kid from the North Shore?
Yeah.
Is it like difficult seeing, being in the same room with Bieber or Drake, or like how do you deal with the fact that realizing that you're supposed to be there?
Dude, I really get imposter syndrome when I'm like when I come back home a lot, because I'll just like out there, people are so jaded. You're like, oh, I was at this event with these people. That's just a normal conversation. And then I come home and I just say that so like normally, so jadedly. My friends are like, wait, what? You know that person? Yeah, I see him every day. Like I see him once a week, whatever it is. I see him every Wednesdays when I'm shooting, whatever it is. And they're like, that's not normal. And then I'm like, wait, that person's like A-list celebrity, B-list celebrity, whatever it is. I'm just me, bro. Like it kind of does feel like you're like, am I supposed to be there? Like in my heart, when I'm living in the moment, I'm like, yeah, like I worked for this. I'm here for this. And I'm kind of at my floor when I want to be at the ceiling. But when I come home and that's just such like it rolls off the tongue, like, yo, yeah, I was with this person at this place. And that's just like, to me, it's normal. I'm not flexing. I'm not doing anything out of pocket. But to them, that's like, that's not normal. You kind of feel that sense of imposter syndrome. It's like, wait, this isn't reality for everybody. You know what I mean? And then you get to the point where it's like, I'm not as successful as them. That's a household name. I'm not. Why am I in the room with, you know what I mean? You start to question yourself. But that's where I think having that good system of family, of friends, and like I said, God comes in handy, because it's like, no, you work for this. This is your dreams, your passion, your purpose. And it's like, if they remind you of who you are and like, what you are, and you don't have any malicious intent, and you have pure intentions, it's like, you deserve to be in that room, So it fluctuates like the heartbeat. Some days I'm like, I'm supposed to be here. Other days I'm like, what am I doing here? So just like everybody else.
On the other side of that, like have there been younger kids that have come up to you in LA that were kind of either starstruck by you or they wanted mentorship from you because you've been out there for a while?
Yeah, bro. I get a lot of kids that are starting out that I'll meet, even if I've actually had people that pass me in followers, where I have messages to this day when they were first starting out being like, dude, I love that you use your platform for this. How did you post like this? Whatever it is. And they're like, I'll be like, yo, text me, man. Here's my number. And then they'll send me like such a nice message of like, bro, I can't believe like I have your number. Like I've been watching your stuff for this. And then next thing you know, they're like the next like biggest thing. And it's kind of cool, going from somebody who like, it's like you're, and like there's that like basketball coach that's got like the player, and then like the player becomes like the GOAT and he always looks back at his coach or something like that. It's like, not that I'm the coach or that I'm taking credit like that at any given point. It's just cool to see people ask for like mentorship the same way that I did at one point, where I talked about like meeting your idols and then becoming friends with them. It's like, I'm not saying I'm their idol, but maybe that person looked up to me for advice. Maybe I was their older brother, whatever it was. And, it's great to see them flourish, and whether they're, as successful, more successful, whatever their ceiling is, it's like super dope to see people come up to me asking for advice. And I think me being 22 as well, I meet a lot of kids that are like 18, 19 that, when I was 19, I understand what that's like to be intimidated by such a big pool. So to have them come to me like, yo, you were here 3 years ago. Like, what decision would you make? I get it all the time, whether it's faith, relationships, business, you can name it. It's kind of cool to be like that elder for them at that point, the same way that other people were for me. Yeah.
These younger kids that are reaching out to you, like how do you decide if you want to work with them or collaborate with them? Because you said that, when you were younger, you didn't want to glaze everybody that was older and you were just trying to do your own thing.
100%.
So like, how do you decide if, you want to work with these kids or not?
Reading the room, man. Authenticity. The first thing you do when I meet you is, man, we're not working. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I know where your intentions are. You want to show everybody what you're doing. But if the first thing I meet you is we're sitting down, you're passionate. Dude, I met this one kid at the gym at Lifetime. He came up to me. He just had so many questions for me. And it was so cool. You know what I mean? Just answering them like, yeah, I did this when I was your age and this. And bro, he stepped aside from the social media thing was like, I know you were a basketball player before all of this. And he specifically asked for basketball training, things like that. Bro, it felt so refreshing. And then I actually learned a lot from him in my faith and other things. It's like when he was there to know me and, you know, learn from my mistakes or stories and lessons, I knew I wanted to work with him immediately. Things like that, when I read the room and I see people's hearts and their intentions, where their mind is, it's like, if I know you're authentic, I am so willing to help you or learn from you, work with you, whatever it is. But if you're superficial, like I said, you're more worried about showing people than actually providing something. It's like, all right, we'll probably step away for a bit. Yeah.
Who are some of your favorite like up and coming younger creators that you have maybe worked with or haven't, but you're just kind of on your radar?
Dude, in terms of like creators and stuff like that, I'm not the biggest on social media, but I see a lot of like artists and rappers that are more successful than me in terms of music, but are younger than me. And one that I want to shout out is Charlie on a Friday. Recently met him, you know, more on like a brother basis. You know what I mean? Like we've known each other. We've been mutuals for at least probably a year on social media. But he was out in LA and we had been at the same events and parties. And we were just kicking it, talking about like, you know, man-to-man stuff. And dude, he's such a cool person. He just did a world tour with Macklemore, and he just opened up for Tate McRae, who's, you know, Tate is blowing up.
She's crushing it.
Yeah, so shout out to Tate too. That's another one. I don't know Tate personally, but Tate is crushing it. I think she's 20 or 21. Like to see that much success as like a...
She's doing a tour now.
Yeah, she's doing her own headline.
Yeah,
I think Charlie's actually opening up for her too. But shout out to Charlie, man. He's got a really good head on his shoulders for, you know, his age and the people that he's collabed with and worked with. He's only 20 years old, man. You know, Godspeed, best of luck, success. He's got a ton of talent. And, you know, just as a man talking to him, he's got a better head on his shoulders at 20 than I did. So, I mean, that comes with touring the world and stuff. But shout out to him. That's definitely someone I would shout out. Yeah.
When you go on a world tour, who do you want to, like, who's your dream act to open for? Is it Bieber? Or
I mean, dude, if I could open for Bieber, that'd be crazy. Yeah, dude. Leroy even. I think Leroy's super cool. I think his music would probably fit more. Yeah, probably Bieber or Leroy.
Do you know 347 Aiden?
Yeah, I know of him. Yeah. I don't know him personally,
Okay.
but I'm familiar with his music. Yeah.
His stuff is kind of in that vibe as well.
Yeah, he's got a cool alternative vibe too.
He's
young, right? Yeah, was he 20?
I don't know, but he's young.
Yeah, he's
I think
young.
he might be 20 or 19.
Yeah. Young kid, but like I said, there's that David kid too, the D4VD. You guys know David? He like blew up recently too. He's a young kid and he's just, you know, shout out to him too, man. I saw his stuff on TikTok. I think he literally used to record off an iPhone mic in a closet. And now he's like, you know, big studio artist. So shout out to him.
Has the music industry really like brought in and like embraced that new kind of path to becoming a successful artist of like, it's really like centered around social media because you bring up Tate McRae, you bring up some of these guys, like that's how they got started and that's kind of what you're talking about. And then, you know, they are able to grow more as an artist, but has the kind of the suits and like the offices, they've embraced that a little bit.
Dude, I know people who are signed to labels. I won't say what labels or what people, but like they literally can't release until they have a certain amount of pre-saves. And how do you drive pre-saves? Social media. Oh, we got to post more. The number one thing I hear from artists who are super successful, maybe they have, you know, hundreds of thousands or millions of monthly listeners, they're signed to a label, but their following's not the biggest, right? They'll say to me or someone else that's in social media, it's like, dude, how do I post this? What do I do? They're always asking like what to post because labels are so big on TikTok because TikTok drives that traffic. A lot of these up and coming artists are so successful because they're just geniuses at marketing. Like one person that always comes to mind if, you know, coming off the top of social media branding is Swaygo and Connor Price. These guys do like the studio skits and they're like, oh, like if this guy was in the studio and then they, you know, they act out as if they were the producer, the artist, and like a bystander. And, you know, they're getting millions of views, not only just on the video, but they're teasing their song. It's genius. So I think, you know, labels and executives have definitely embraced the social media game because that's what's driving the streams right now. And, you know, you got to adapt to survive, and modern times call for modern measures. And that's like, you know, exactly what social media is for the music game. Yeah.
So I think wrapping this up, where do you see yourself, you know, Sevryn, this brand, musician, creator, entrepreneur in, you know, the next 5 years? The
next 5 years, imagine, you see how Kanye has like Yeezy? I want to have my own clothing brand of that. And then, you know, maybe it's obviously not like Yeezy kind of plays off Kanye West. He calls himself Yeezy, all that stuff. But I want to have a clothing brand as successful as that. You know what I mean? Something that big. And whereas like Travis Scott has his like deal with Nike, maybe I want to partner with something like that, you know, big on the clothing stuff. But in 5 years, I want to have a successful clothing brand and I want to have a successful lifestyle brand, whether that means branching into certain things. But man, I just want to be financially set up so that I can retire my mom. I want my brother to have his hands in whatever, you know, he needs to in terms of the music industry and entertainment. And I want to take my friends on a tour. I think the first thing I want to do after the next 5 years, you know, hopefully touring a couple times, would be to have a giant show in Boston free. So I can bring out like all my family and friends. And dude, if I could ever sell out like TD Garden, that would be like the I made it moment. So in 5 years, hopefully we can check back in on that.
We'll do a backstage pod when you sell out TJ.
Dude, that would be sick.
Garden.
Yeah, 100%. You got my word for it right now.
All right,
Hell
dude.
yeah.
You're at the Garden.
Bro.
We'll do it. Can't
Amazing.
wait.
We'll do that.
Cool. Well,
But thanks for coming on, man. We always kind of run out of things to say, and that's how we kind of determine it's over.
Yeah, no, dude,
But
thanks for having me, bro.
this was great.
Yeah. I know I had some lengthy answers and probably babbled a bit, but
no,
we're good. He's good at cutting them up and you know,
Cool.
making it sound good.
cool, bro.
But
best of luck with everything.
Thanks,
And,
man. You guys as well. You guys are doing like something sick too. Like I always, when I see like local love or something, like, you know, people from home like curating something, like even, you know, my boy told me about y'all and I was like, I checked it out and I was like, bro, the success that you guys have already had is like sick. Like, you know, the success is astronomical. Like, you know, the sky's the limit. Like keep going with it, run it up. And I think you guys have something not only cool going on, but you guys obviously are successful in your own industries, and I think it's gonna make for a really good podcast. So,
thank you.
Of course, bro.
Appreciate that.
Of course,
man.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you in the Garden in a couple of years.
Yeah, in a couple of years.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.